Okay, are we good to go? Yes, we are. I'm giving the thumbs up. Okay, so this next section is called the European Snapshot. We're going to be talking to 3 people who are going to give their overview about their work in Europe and the obstacles that they're faced to overcome while fighting for change. So, welcoming to the stage, the first person up on stage is Pia Mann from Discover Football. Wearing a fantastic t-shirt, by the way. Look at it, I want one of these. Next up on the stage is Dr. Haifa, Tlili, researcher and sociologist in partnership with Les Hijabousis, who we're going to talk about in a bit. A round of applause for this wonderful person as well. And also, can I welcome to stage Soma Mayel, Girl Power, which is a Danish organisation working with refugee women and girls. Hey, look at that.
Fans.
Now I realise why they're all in red t-shirts. I didn't get that greeting at all. Welcome to all 3 of you. Are you cool with your mic? You all happy with your mics? Excellent stuff. Okay, so we're going to have just roughly about 10, 12 minutes, because I'm slightly conscious we're running over time, just to hear from yourselves about your work, the issues that you faced, how you've overcome them, what you think the future is going to hold as well, and then we'll take questions from the floor. So according to my list, Haifa, you're due to go first. Would you like to kick things off?
To present myself.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you said that I'm working with the hijabeuses. It's really a big issue, the hijabeuses. But as a researcher doing action research, sociologist, I'm really focusing on representation, how can we change the discourses, and how can we involve more and more girls and women in sport. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And normally, Mama, she is a part of the organization of the hijabeuses, but she's COVID positive as she cannot come, but I will represent also the hijabeuses.
And you'll do a fantastic job. Pia with a fantastic t-shirt on that I want. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
So hi, I'm Pia. I'm a volunteer with Discover Football, and we are a Berlin-based NGO who uses football as a tool to foster women's rights, also LGBTIQ rights. Yeah, and we do international projects, basically all over the world, but we also work on the ground in Berlin. So we actually have a project coming up working with refugee women and girls, and yeah, I'm a social worker in my paid life, and I work mainly with transgender people.
Brilliant stuff, thank you very much. Summer, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody and tell everybody what you do, please?
Yes, thank you. You said we had 10 minutes each, right?
I was going to say, if that was the case,
want to start? Okay, no, I'm just kidding.
I'd love to give you 10 minutes each, but...
All right, next time. Well, my name is Soma Mayel. I represent Girl Power. I'm here on behalf of Khalida Poupal. I just have a feeling that most of you know who she is. It's really big shoes to fill out, so I'm not trying to do that. To those of you who might not know Girl Power, it's a non-profit activistic organization working to empower girls and women through sports and leadership, and we are represented in Denmark and in Germany and in UK and in Greece, and newly we've received open departments in Greece and Turkey and Pakistan. And the girls cheering here, let me just introduce them maybe. They are the awesome girls from the Afghan team in Afghanistan who actually arrived not more than a year ago when Afghanistan was fallen back to the hands of Taliban. So I'm really happy that you guys are here. It's the first time I meet them, but they are also representing Girl Power. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Yes, please, yes. We'll dive into that a little bit in a bit, actually, about their story, because it was an amazing story about, what happened, obviously, the Taliban and getting the girls out, so we'll cross that in a second. So, do I call you Dr. Haifa, or can I just say hi? Can I just say your name, Haifa, or would you like to be known as Doctor?
No, it's perfect, Haifa.
Haifa's great stuff. Forgive me, I speak more Spanish than I do French, so Les Hijabouses, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, hijab.
Hijabeuses.
Like it's a mix between football players.
Yes.
In France, it's footballeuses.
Yes.
And you had hijabeuses. That's all.
I read an article about them in The Guardian about the battles that they face with the French Football Federation.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how your role as well, trying to highlight the issue that France has about women who wish to play football wearing hijab.
Yeah, it's a good example, The Guardian, because they took a big picture of the situation. 2 years fighting by a way against the FFF, because the rule now is to exclude any woman with a hijab because of the neutrality of sports. Or, you don't have to show your religious ideology, but also you cannot manifest politically stuff. But we are not speaking about that. We are speaking about identity and their right to play, right to be what they are. And that's why we just tell to the FFF it's unfair and you have to open your eyes and to accept this new population, and it's a positive thing. And of course they don't want to accept it because in 2014 the FIFA it was in 2020, I'm sorry, the FIFA accept the hijab on the pitch, but the FFF they directly said that it's impossible in France, and of course it's an official statement, and he used the neutrality and all what I said, but the gap between the FIFA and the FFF, it's a big question. Why there is this big gap, and that's why the hijabeuses started to fight against this discriminatory law, and they really want to be seen as a player. And yes, that's the issue of the hijabeuses. But it's a long journey. 2 years, it's not nothing. 2 years, it's a big journey. We have to learn, first of all, to learn our rights. It's the first step, to know exactly what is secularism and why we are in our rights. And after that, to mobilize all the hijabeuses. We are working with Alliance Citoyenne. They are really engaging in the community organizing. They're doing a great job. And they're also known for their action in, for instance, public piscine municipal. It's the swimming pool, but in the city, and they just want to help Muslim women with their, they said, burkini. If they want to go to the swimming pool, they can go. We work with them, with Alliance Citoyenne, and for myself as a researcher, I just put the light on this situation. It's just we cannot understand in French this situation, and with my hat of researcher, I want to give voices, to understand their experience, and to see the representation and to deconstruct the false discourses. And it's the mix between the three that give this campaign, and of course now we are just provoking a new future, we hope, more inclusive and just more respectful for the rights to practice sports.
So the French Football Federation say, as I just quickly look through my notes, that it's committed to neutrality, non-discrimination and secularism. But you and, well, not you personally, but there is a group now challenging that through the law. Because you've said in your notes to me yesterday, you talked about we cannot let things fester.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that?
Yeah, it's you imagine it's a box, and no one wants to open the box because they are just afraid. But why they are just afraid? Because it's not their experience. They don't understand that, and just they have the prejudices and all this bad representation. And but when you give voice to women, of course, they explain their own experience and their reasons of wearing the hijab, why it's important for them, but also it's not in opposition with the involvement on the pitch. And yeah, we just want to be more respectful and more, because it's a waste of, you know, hundreds and hundreds women, girls who want to play. They didn't see any hijabis on I don't know, on television, on the pitch, and they said maybe they cannot be a football player in the future because they want to wear the hijab, or in their best future, they imagine themselves with the hijab. But because of the hijab ban, they just said, no, football, it's not for me, I cannot, and I'm not, it's not authorized, it's not my place. And of course, you can imagine all the frustration, the humiliation, well, the discrimination, and yeah, it's hard to see that in front of, you know, the eyes of the hijabers. But it's also very complex because in parallel you have all the actors, the football actors, like referees, coaches, and also leaders responsible of different clubs. It's not their problem, you know. It's not the subject. They don't want to take part of this subject, because if they took part of this subject, probably they will not have any funds. Probably they will be stigmatized by the media. Maybe the FFF, of course, will put them pressure.
In Denmark, we call that berøringsangst, when you're afraid to get involved,
yeah.
So you better, like, you just stay out of it.
That's exactly that. They're just, you know, phrase. And we are not accepting anymore this situation, because what we want is just play and be active in our society. And I think there is two things very important that provoke, by a way, the change. First of all, it's the discussion with the international organization like Fair Network in 2018. I spoke with them and I said, okay, well, it's just unfair. And they said, no, it's not unfair, it's xenophobic. Why unfair? It's not unfair, it's xenophobic. And at that time, I realized that maybe by my way, because I'm influenced by the French mentality, everything is beautiful, we are all together, we love football, we love sport, and we are all equal, but it's not it's not the case. And yeah, it's a little we were afraid at the beginning, but because we are provoking this change and we are not silent and we really want to engage positively the society, slowly by slowly, we realize that it's really, really fair. It's positive. What we are doing, it's really, but not only for Muslims women, but for all the different kind of communities. For instance, we are helped by the an LGBTQI+ association. The name is Les Dégommeuses, and they were so crazy to see the hijabers or hijabis. They are not aware to play, and they were all the manifestation. They are all really engaged with us, and they just, you know, give us a sense of, you know, respect of our dignity. You know, it's important to respect the dignity of women, and they're really touched by the experience of the hijabers, and that's why, yeah, we engage slowly by slowly others association and other community, and even if we try to do intersectionality in France, it's complicated. You don't probably know that in France we stigmatize any association, any researcher, any politics who want to, by a way, help the Muslims community. And it's not, you know, we are just intersectional. We fight against the complexity of oppressions, and that's really helpful in this journey. I really want to focus in, you know, a very important point. Now we are working with a lawyer. It's a big issue. We are really fighting against the FFF. Legal aspects are now in the Council of States. We are waiting the answer. I'm sorry for my English, it's just big, messy, crazy English, but we are really waiting for the answer. And But we are not waiting without doing nothing. We have to provoke change. We have to imagine that it's possible to be Muslims, hijabi on the pitch, and that's why the Hijabeuse campaign want to provoke the sensitivity of any individuals to say that it's totally normal to be hijabis or not, because it's safe, it's secure. There is no problem with the hijabi now with different brands, but also there is no reasons. Objectively, there is no reason to be opposed by the involvement of hijabis. It's a long journey, but the other thing very positive now, girls, women, hijabis, they don't want to be silenced anymore, and they just, from basketball, from athleticism, from different sports, they just want to see the hijabeuse, and now they started to to change also the regulation of others French federation. For instance, in basketball, it's exactly the same than in football. We have exactly the same situation. The federation, international federation is they authorized, but the French Federation of Basketball, they don't want to see any hijabis on the pitch. Well, we are totally similar, and but slowly by slowly, we can also change the community, the community, Muslims community inside also, because they also have to change to say that, like any other community, to say that sport is important, and we have to involve any person. Yeah, it's a little bit long, but it's a long journey. I'm here really to put the voice, to put the voice, to put the light, to be objective, and to find solution with all the stakeholders.
Yep. Okay, thank you for that. I've got a clearer idea now in my head. Right, so from France to Germany, here. So from your point of view, I mean, when I was doing my prep last night, I could see the projects that your Discover Football's doing. Give us an overview of the work that you're doing. As you mentioned about transgender women as well. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's difficulties around that. So same to Haifa, really, if you could give us an overview.
Okay, so basically what we're going to do is, female empowerment. And by female, we always mean like all femininities, you know, trans, inter, women included, non-binary people, anyone who can identify with us in our projects. We are not as ethnically diverse as we would like to be. I mean, honestly speaking, we're, pretty white organization, middle class academic background. So we try to be as, critically white about this as we can. And this is by doing, like having events and giving our participants a platform, women in football who come together, who exchange, who are like, experts for themselves. We don't have to go anywhere and, tell people in, Brazil, or we've been to India, for example. They know their background better than we do. So, and of course there are like, common discriminations and, as women in football, there's also sexism, there's homophobia, there's transphobia in Germany as there is in other places. But then again, we think that our participants, they know their backgrounds and their communities better than we do. So basically, we want to create platforms for women to come together and exchange about their experiences, and also about solutions that might have worked for them, and that might also work in other surroundings.
Tell us about the upcoming project you've got with 10 refugee women and 40 girls in particular.
Mm-hmm. So we're actually just starting a project now in August together with the Terre des Hommes, which is an organization that comes, from a development background, let's say. But like I said, we want to be very cautious about this, and we don't want to do like development aid. So actually what we're planning to do is we want to bring 10 refugee young women that are based in Berlin and Brandenburg, that's the state around Berlin, together. And we want to, give them or have them be given a training to become youth leaders. There's something called like a youth leader card that, can be used all over Germany for, just leading any kind of, youth group. But we want to have like a football focus in this. These, 10 women are going to get this training, and then in Easter they will actually organize a football camp for 40 girls, mainly, with a refugee background, have them come together for a week and, maybe get in touch with football for the first time. Because as I said, we are probably not the best people to, train refugee children, we want to, like I said, give this platform to the refugee women who are there and who want to get involved. I mean, be they footballers or not. So, that's our idea.
Because football's such a universal language, isn't it? It's the one thing that you put a football in front of someone, they know what to do with it. And for refugees who've come from traumatic situations, it's just a chance to escape for a little while or just enjoy themselves while they get used to their new surroundings, coming to a new country, a new culture, a new language. And as part of that, if your work of Discover Football as well is about female empowerment, why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say that, we also have like great partners in Berlin, an organization called Chalk Champions Without Borders, who have done a great job in working with refugees, male or female or, whatever sex or gender they identify with, for, more than 10 years now. So it's great to have them, as partners. And I think this is true for, I can speak from my, cis female queer perspective that for me it was very important, to just have this pitch, to vent, to do something, like to be in a place where I wasn't supposed to be. And I think this is even, true or more true for refugees, who, in a racist society that Germany definitely is, living in like refugee shelters that are in the middle of nowhere, that some of them don't even have like contact to, other people, other populations, other communities in Berlin and Brandenburg. So I think, like for them to come together. And actually, we don't want to just, focus on refugee girls, for example. We also want to have, like, bring refugee girls and girls together that, have grown up in Germany. Even, like, some that, have a German passport, or some that have grown up in Germany. It's not, I don't know if you know, we have people, for example, with a Turkish background, that have lived in Germany all their lives but don't have German nationality, they don't have German citizenship, because, that's how Germany, deals with citizenship.
Well, I was going to say, I'm an Arsenal fan, sorry. I saw the whole issue with Mesut Ozil when he talked about, his family's from Turkey, but in terms of playing for the German national team, there was a whole discussion around that, wasn't there?
Yeah, of course. I think we've heard it before, in Germany we also, it's a very white-dominated society, and, being German is very much linked to being white. So, we also have these, like, typical questions that we had before. So where you're really from, and, like, I'm speaking from a white perspective, because, so, like, that's nothing, I have to deal with.
Well, but as a brown person, I can confirm it's the exact same in Denmark.
Yeah.
Where are you really from?
Yeah.
And the citizen part too.
So where was I going?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Also a long story. Basically I think it's what I said before. We want to create this platform for, refugee women to, become leaders who, give them a training that they can actually apply, be it in football or, in other surroundings, working with youth. And also we want to have, these kids come together, these kids that, might come from a refugee shelter somewhere in Brandenburg, and that's also part of the project, bringing them to pitches, like making sure we have vans to actually bring them to the pitches, because oftentimes they cannot just hop on a train or whatever, because maybe there isn't public transport at all, or they're not allowed to go on their own. Bring them together with very privileged, white girls, for example, that, live in Berlin and, have never gotten in touch with refugees. And, by that, maybe to also, counter all these stereotypes about, the bad refugees who are, coming to Germany now and, that, don't want to integrate and just, come to cause trouble or whatever. That's something that, we want to fight by doing our work.
And keep fighting, please do. Right, from Germany to Denmark. Hello, Soma.
Hi.
Can you tell us a little bit about Girl Power and these the people in the red shirts as well, please?
Yeah, of course. Well, actually, listening to you, it's a lot of the same things that Girl Power does. So my first thought was I need to hook you up with the girls in Germany. You could do amazing work together. Because Girl Power is also about empowering women through leadership and through sports, and especially making events with marginalized communities, in refugee centers, asylum centers, and in so-called ghettos, or whatever the system chooses to call it, but also about bringing resourceful, strong minorities who has been raised in Denmark, maybe born in Denmark, with the newcomers. The focus of Girl Power and sport and football in general, how it affects the social inclusion, is just it's just something that needs to be spoken about, because the social inclusion in sport is magical. And I was born in Afghanistan myself, raised in Denmark, got my citizenship 5 years ago, because Denmark has one of the absolute strictest immigration laws, so it's almost impossible to become a citizen, even though if you're raised and born there. But I know how it is to be a child, arriving to a new country with a new culture, and then starting while balancing between two cultures and two religions and two languages, and then several languages later. But how important it is to integrate the minorities that are newcomers, and also important to say it goes both ways. But mostly, I think right now, what you're telling about is the situation in France and the situation in Germany, everywhere in Europe, the right-winged way of speaking about minorities, and the way politicians and people with power, they speak about minorities, are just like making bigger and bigger gaps between the people in the country. And that's why I just want to keep telling the majority and the citizens in a country that when newcomers, refugees, family reunited, they arrive to a country, the first period and the way they're welcomed is just completely, like it can be the biggest aspect of how their further life will be in the country. If they're welcomed in a good way, they will be easier to integrate. If you speak about them as a resource that come to a country and not a burden, it will help a lot. So yeah. Girl Power does a lot of things, and I'm here most for the social inclusion part, because most of the sports activities and workshops we do have the same goal as you. And Khalida, as several of you know, she was the founder of the national football team, the women's national football team in Afghanistan. She saw how sports can be a reason for having your life threatened, how football can be dangerous, how sports can be dangerous for a woman to care about, to be passionate about, how football can mean you have to risk your life. So I think the category of our talk is actually European snapshots, right? being raised in Denmark, I thought that equality, of course, we have that. We're a very rich Western country, so of course, equality is something that we have. And then I got a little older and realized how many aspects in the society that are lacking equality. But I think what I did, which was my biggest mistake back then, I always compared the question of equality in Denmark with the situation of Afghanistan. Okay, relax, you may not be paid as much as the men at your workplace, but at least you don't get thrown rocks at you while you play football at the field. And that was my biggest mistake. So when I realized what girl power does, empowering women and making me realize that there's such a social part of the football game, then I thought that I would like to use more energy on this project. And then having a badass role model as Holiday, like you.
I like that. I like that.
You've grown
energy
all the time.
And forgive me, because I'm slightly behind the curve on this one, but the involvement in terms of getting the girls that play for the Afghanistan team, how were you personally involved in that, or Girl Power was involved in that? Can you again?
Girl Power was involved.
Okay.
I definitely wasn't involved because I'm a lawyer. I work for the Danish Immigration Service, so I was definitely not involved in that case because I work with refugees in my daily life. So I had to stay out of it, or else I would be inhabil, non-neutral.
But such a story that just
yes,
it
absolutely.
went worldwide, didn't it?
Khalida was
Story.
involved, and Girl Power actually managed to evacuate almost 133 girls and their families to the UK, and almost 140 girls to, where was it? Was it Australia? Thank you. And several
That
other
lot down
countries.
under. That we just call them that lot down under. Yeah.
And several other countries also accepted and accepted the girls, and so Girl Power was very involved. And the whole situation in August, I think it was the 15th of August last year, where the country fell back to the hands of Taliban, was just historical. Seeing the minorities in the European countries mostly, like having a déjà vu. Everything that my family, my parents escaped from was like, it was happening all over again. It was so crazy. So these girls sitting here, and the way seeing that they watched the country build somehow up during the past decades, a little bit at least, so they could play football, they could go to school, and then now everything has just been bombed back to many centuries ago, and it's a very like sad circumstances that we're gathered here, but at least they're here and they're safe. But Girl Power keeps working on getting more families out and more girls out, because they're not out, all of them.
Yeah, and as I said to these two, continue the good fight, of course. Okay, one question for all three of you, but if you could keep your answers brief, I'd really appreciate it. Let's start with you, Soma. It's the same question for the three of you. How can the international community support you more in what you do? Let's start with you, Soma. Keep it brief if you could, please.
Okay, so because I'm a lawyer, I see it from a legal perspective.
Take your lawyer hat off for a second.
Oh, all right then. Well, I think that giving them, about the Afghans, you mean? Giving them a place to stay, so they don't have to stay at asylum centers for too long. That would be a great start. Giving them pocket money and giving them some circumstances, so they don't feel like second level peepers in the society.
Yeah, like a burden on society, because a burden, like...
So they don't feel like a burden to the society. Yeah, exactly. That's like a very practical thing.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same for you.
Yeah, I think it's important to, if we have to invest for the change of the French Federation of Football, and also the relation with the hijab and sport in France, I think it's internationally we have to put, I don't know, to illustrate by a way why it's so important to include hijabis in the society, and maybe with that the French can, the government see, the strange reaction to do the hijab ban, and to see all the positive impact in their life, just to prove to. But I really want to also to, if internationally we can do something, it's to be more reactive with the campaign, to be able to speak about the campaign, to prove why it's important, and really to share the experiences of any hijabis on the pitch and see the positive impact. I'm thinking about that, but there's probably others positive things to do internationally. We need, of course, sisterhood, we need solidarity, and any solidarity in that sphere will help the hijabers. Yeah.
Cool, nice one. Pia, last word for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to say like support our work. I think, people are doing it in different parts of the world anyway, but I think we've heard it before, that I really hope, or, that's what at least we want to do, have like an intersectional approach, like, yes, we have a focus, on gender, on sexual orientation, on gender identity and that, but we also have to like, keep other things in mind, like skin color and stuff. And I think we can only, as like let's say like a football community, change something, from, change the situation as it is now, which is still male, white dominated, very heteronormative. I think if we want to change that, we have to, come from different ends, but we also have to like keep each other in mind, and have an intersectional approach, and maybe have our expertise on some things, but keep in mind the other the other points of discrimination that there are, and support other groups, do stuff together.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great stuff. Time to open the floor for a couple of questions. Has anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask our international panelists? So you've done such a good job. Nobody's got any questions for you because they obviously covered so many points.
Can I just say something real
Very
fast?
quickly.
Very quickly.
Go on.
It's just that I looked at the pictures behind us, and we've been talking about representation today and visibility and see and achieve, I think I heard. And I just realized how few women there are in these pictures. And we just made the workshop, so there are pictures of women in football, but just not on the National Football Museum.
Well noted, Soma.
I think we have someone
well
from
noted.
the National Football Museum.
Okay, we've got one question. Go for it, Hayley.
I'm sure there's plenty more questions, but it's to Haifa. As I mentioned on the panel, obviously I'm struggling with the FFF and supporting the France team, even though we have got that ethnic diversity. What's it like in France? Are like Muslim women getting behind the national team? Obviously, I know you can't speak on behalf of absolutely everyone, but I'm just curious to know if that is a conversation that's being had.
Yeah, just remember that I need just to be a little slow, but if I understand well, is how the community, Muslims community, help the Muslims, the hijabis, on the pitch. Is it that?
It was more about the national team at the Euros. Are like Muslim women supporting them, even though the FFF are so problematic?
Yeah, it's important question, and of course we ask the question, and because probably about the difference, the gap between men and women, they are in a very difficult situation to take the voice, because if they take the voice, probably they will not have the opportunity to play in the national team. It's complex because they sign different kind of paper for their not enter in political issues, and that's for the FFF, it's a political issues. I think it's more helpful if the brand is totally open in that. I don't want to select some brand, but I'm sure that some, like Nike with the US last sad movement, Black Lives Matter, we saw that Nike, even if they are targeted by a way, they assume by a way that you have to take voices and to know your rights, you know. Okay, but we know that Nike is connected for this issue. But it's not the same everywhere. It's not because Nike, it's international with that in France will be easier for us in that issue. We have to take all the the people who want to help us and to see that it's totally fair, natural, fair for themselves, and it's important. You have several Muslim women in the team, national team, but they are just invisible. They don't show their religiosity. And for men, if they're religious neutral, they're not neutral. They are, they can have some tattoos and they can pray, and no one said nothing about this gap, It's just normal. I think the challenge is to help the important players, help them to understand what is the issue, It's about our rights, it's about secularism, but what is secularism? And maybe they don't know exactly what is secularism. And if they know secularism, they know that, of course, if you have any religious, you can practice, and you have your right to be who you are on the pitch. I think we have to teach them, because it's a new subject, and no one to enter in this touchy subject, because it's a Pandora box. If you open the Pandora box, it will explode for sure. But we will help them to see that, it's a normal subject, but with our voices first.
It's a great question, actually, and just picking up on what Soma said earlier about having to get how long it took you, or the battle you had getting citizenship from a country that you were born in.
Raised in.
Hearing that, I'm like, what?
Yeah, but it's crazy because even right now it's hard to get the citizenship, and then the new government has changed the rules. So even if you're born here or raised here, if your parents don't have a citizenship, you won't get it either. And then when you turn 18, you have to not only apply for your citizenship, you have to get a permanent residence first. It's insane. And when you talk about the law, I can't stop thinking that it has to be like a communication job for the people, because it's all about who you elect to represent you. It's all about the politicians. Those are the ones who make the law. So if the people in the country are right-wing focused, then they get the majority of the vote, and they're the ones in charge. Yeah. Put your vote differently.
It's a circle, virtuous circles, and we want to provoke this very positive and not negative. And for changing that, it's just to give voice, to be just, it's what is the difficulties, what is the misunderstanding, what the prejudices, and with that, slowly by slowly, people, allies will understand and help you for that.
But it's secularization and that you can't be neutral on the pitch. It's funny because we had exactly the same discussion in Denmark 2 or 3 years ago in the media. I was claimed that I can't work for an authority, I can't work for the Danish Immigration Service because I'm a double citizen, I'm a dual citizen. I have both the Afghan and the Danish passport, so you can't be neutral in your work. And then it was a huge case, during the summer, and all medias, all newspapers wrote about it, and it was so clear that that was the most stupid thing that people had heard. Of course you can work as a neutral lawyer and still have a dual citizenship. So it's the same debate all over Europe, because it has just turned so right-winged.
Absolutely. And if we had another hour or so, we could really get into it, but we don't, I'm afraid, which is such a shame because it's such a great topic. Please, everybody, could you show your appreciation for our fantastic panellists? Pia, Haifa, and Soma. Thank you, all three of you. Thank you very much.